Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. It's just after 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, so we're here. That's kind of how it works. I am here. I am Dave Schofield, co-editor behind thesteelcurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And with me, as always, every Tuesday night at this time is my big brother, Rich. Big Bro Scho, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, thank you.
You ready to get this off-season continue to roll?
Oh, continue to roll. You know, I enjoy watching football, but talking about all the things that go on and looking at stuff during the offseason is almost as fun as, almost as fun, or a different kind of fun, I should say, probably than, actual football season going on.
Gotcha.
Which, by the way, I have to bring this up.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Oh, by the way, first I'll start with an apology up front. I'm sorry, Kyle, but I'm about to throw you under the bus.
Doing your best Brian Anthony Davis impersonation. He's an under the bus thrower.
Yeah, I'm throwing Kyle out there on this one because there's no other way to do this. So, speaking of fun and things with football, we had a death this weekend along our way. And that death was the death of the original fantasy football email that I had.
Oh, no.
Kyle killed it by mistake.
Uh-oh. Hey, I tried to send you something to that email on Sunday. And I got it coming, and I got undeliverable.
Back.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what will happen now. It's undeliverable. Microsoft has killed it. No one else can ever have it.
Yeah, but you killed it.
I can't have it back.
Oh, that's a shame. From our original fantasy football days, that's we're talking like 23 years ago.
1998.
Yeah, back
August of 1998.
That means a lot to you and I, but everyone listening, like, yeah, we don't care. So,
I was talking about the fun of football, and
I
just got to thinking about how much fun we had during that time at old school fantasy football before the days of being able to just click and sign up for things online, and how much fun we used to have.
To explain that to people that may be listening to the show that haven't heard this before, we used to run our own fantasy football before you did it through places like Yahoo or ESPN and stuff like that. We looked up the stats and scored it ourselves, and it was fantastic. And it was, Hashtag don't pay Kyle.
Don't pay Kyle.
Yep, he lost it. So let's get back to our Steelers stuff. You realize that 1 week from today, when we come back on our show, nope, don't end it right now. Don't say it. We're not ending. We're just starting. That when we see you all in 1 week, we're going to be in the midst of craziness.
Yes, we will.
Because the legal tampering period kicks off next Monday, and the official league year starts next Wednesday. So it is that in-between time where there's all the reports, players are signing deals, but they're not allowed to become official, blah, blah, blah. All kinds of craziness is going to be going on. I'm telling you, some places out there are reporting, just wait till the 17th when all the crazy happens. If you wait until the 17th, you're going to miss everything.
Because
it's called coming down on the 15th and the 16th. More than anything.
So, well, let me ask you this one, because you put on all the signs and everything like that. When do teams have to get compliant with the cap?
That is at 4 p.m. on the 17th.
Right.
So, now, but they can't sign those contracts until then.
Right. Mm-hmm. So not only is there going to be tons of news of potentially guys signing, but you're going to have guys getting axed coming up to that left and right, especially when you look at teams like, I don't know, the Saints.
This is leading into the other thing we didn't talk about today. The Saints. We got to talk about the Saints because that's the other part of news today. I mean, of course, we will talk about the one player that the Steelers signed here in just a little bit. But the other news today was the deadline to use the franchise tag. And the team that has the worst salary cap situation tagged a player. Couldn't believe it. They tagged the safety. I can't even remember his name right now because I was It was more about the Saints are actually using the franchise tag. Great googly moogly. That's just more they have to deal with, but they must have a plan, or some people are reading into that. And I'll have an article first thing in the morning at behindthesteelcurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers, that talks about reading into what's going to be with the salary cap. That number could come at any moment, and it might not come until noon on the 17th.
Yeah.
But some people are trying to read into things about with the salary cap. I kind of lay out a few scenarios. I've got to go back and add that one because when I wrote the article, we were going to run it at 4:00 today. But then there was the news of Marcus Allen signing his 1-year exclusive rights free agent tender. So he's returning as a depth piece to the Steelers defense. You know, some people that don't know what's going on are like, why are they bringing him back? Or this isn't answer anything. It's a player on a league minimum salary that has to actually sign the tender to come back, but he can't go anywhere else unless the Steelers don't offer him the contract. That's all that is.
Yep.
So what do you think about the Saints using the franchise tag? What about that?
Does that give you any indication on maybe on what might be going on with Mr. Breeze?
Well, we know what's going on with Mr. Breeze. Mr. Breeze is retiring, but he can't. He's trying to help the team by not retiring until after June 1st in order to split up his more than $22 million salary cap dead money hit over 2 seasons.
Yes.
So what it is the Saints, rather than have to take on 22 million of that right now, they only have to be dealing with I think just over 11 of it, plus his $1 million $1.075 million league minimum salary until that time. So basically, they're waiting, and then the Saints will save $1 million later, rather than him retiring now, and it'll count $22 million this year, which is great. Googly moogly, that's a lot. Which is basically what would have been the case with the Steelers with one BTR, but that wasn't the case there. So. Yeah, just kind of crazy. Couldn't believe that that the Saints did that. Which, I mean, they got to have a plan.
They're already cap strapped, and they are on one player just going to increase that amount more than you thought they would want to.
Yeah, and I don't like I said. I'm sure they've.
But as you said, they have a plan. You know. You don't do that without a plan. Just like we would say, you know, Kevin Colbert and the Steelers wouldn't do something without a plan.
Yeah.
So,
and like Andrew Wilbar says, the Saints maybe have an insight that the cap is going to be higher than we think. Maybe, but I'm laying out the case in this article for tomorrow. If it's not that the Saints would have had inside, it probably would have been multiple teams would have had inside. I think you would have seen more franchise tags being applied if that were the case. If you would have seen, I think there was 8 or 10 in all applied. If you'd have seen 16 or more, I would have said these teams know that the salary cap's not going to be lower than it was last year, which was 198.2. But it was just the Saints. So maybe they already had a plan that was a player they wanted to keep. Maybe they've got a bunch of restructures coming. It's hard to say, or extensions, however they do those things. But you know what? I don't follow the Saints that closely because we're all about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what we're talking about tonight, well, but before we do that, let's roll into this Pittsburgh Steelers and their use of the franchise tag this year, which was, as we expected, Rich.
Nobody.
We didn't expect anybody. No. And it's funny because when Michael Beck put the tweet in our breaking news channel on our Slack channel for BTSC, Jeff kind of laughed about it when he put in there that the Steelers informed Bud Dupree that they weren't tagging him a second time. So he would know that. And Jeff's like, well, duh. I said, Jeff, we need to do that article. He's like, why? I said, because there are people out there that still are like, why don't we just tag Dupree again?
Yep.
And that's why we wrote the article. That's why we say not every article was for everybody at BTSC. Some things some people are looking for one thing while some people are looking for another. Some people don't know the information. Some people do. You just never know. So some articles we try to make for everybody, and other ones were just, hey, for those of you that didn't know, yeah, they weren't going to tag Bud Dupree. It would have been almost $19 million for this year for Bud Dupree. They couldn't tag him.
No.
The only chance they had was if they signed him to a deal. Now, can they still do that? They can. Are they still the only team that can sign him for the next 5 days? They are. Did you unplug your mic? Because I don't. Because we're having technical difficulties with Big Bro. Now you're just flat up muted on StreamYard. But just so you know. But that's okay. I'll keep talking. I'm used to it. So what's happened is Bud Dupree. And I'm getting an alert that your mic is not connected, bro. Just so you know. So with Bud Dupree, you're not going to have the $19 million. The Steelers are the only team that can negotiate a contract with him for the next 5 days. Then when the legal tampering period comes into play, then other teams can negotiate with Dupree. All that time, he can still sign with the Steelers. That's the other thing that people sometimes realize. Oh, they're not tagging him. He's gone. Yeah, well, he probably is. It's not impossible, but it's still there. So, I don't know. Just so you know, Rich, you might have to move. You might have to close StreamYard and come back. So, with that said, the other option that the Steelers possibly had was if they were to franchise tag somebody else, such as maybe a Juju Smith-Schuster, which the franchise tag for a wide receiver would have been around what people are expecting him to get. But the Steelers don't, if they were to re-sign Juju, which I don't think that any indications are that they're going to be able to do that, that first year would be much, much lower. And do we have
Can you hear me now?
I got you.
Okay.
Yes. So
I'm just sitting here, and all of a sudden I couldn't hear you. I knew nothing was going through my mic. I could tell by the way you were reacting. I was like,
"Yep,
what the heck is going on here?"
That's why I was trying to signal to you, but we were talking about, why you don't tag a player like Juju Smith-Schuster, even if he would get that much average money somewhere else, even if the Steelers would have been willing to pay that, because you would have wanted that first year to be a reduction, and you don't get that with a franchise tag.
You don't get that with the tag.
So honestly, to me, he was the only player that was even where the number of the franchise tag was even remotely close to what he would get on the market. Because I mean, I don't see Bud Dupree getting $19 million a year. That's just because it would be a second franchise tag. So they didn't use it. We expected them to do that. But what we want to talk about tonight, now that I got you back, we can move on to what we were going to talk about. We want to talk about keeping the Steelers' defense elite in 2021. Because when you have a defense that good, and when you have the salary cap situation and a lot of, number one draft picks on there, it's really hard to retain everyone. So the question is, what can the Steelers do to keep this defense at the elite level that it is? It's going to have some different personnel. So we're going to take it in steps. Okay. Step number one. Do you remember what the steps were that I told you? Because I can't remember what number one was. Which one do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about?
You told me steps.
I told you steps. I did right before we went. This is what happens when we have technical. See, his earphones really weren't working the whole time, and he was just kind of ignoring me anyway. So the Steelers are going to lose players.
Yes.
What defenders do you believe the Steelers are going to lose from 2020?
Do I believe?
Yeah. So let's look at some of the players that aren't under contract.
See, I was going to say, I would say first, you're talking about how do we keep this an elite defense? Well, first let's list who we've got.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
Okay. Let's start with who we have.
Okay, so let's do you want to go starters?
Yes. Let's go starters. So let's go on the defensive line. Work right down the line. Yep.
Okay.
Hayward and Tuitt.
Outside linebackers, you've got Watt and you've got Highsmith, who started a number of games last year under contract. Okay, you've got Bud Dupree as a free agent. Linebacker, you've got all your guys. You've got Bush. You've got Vince Williams going into the last year of his deal. We'll talk about whether or not we'll get to if there's going to be any cuts. You've got Spillane has not signed his exclusive rights tender yet, but he will. And you've got Marcus Allen, who did sign his.
Right.
Okay. Avery Williamson, who they traded for, back to being a free agent. Then you look at corner. You've got both Hayden and Nelson under contract for one more year with very large cap numbers. And then you've got Mike Hilton and Cameron Sutton as free agents. And then you've got Justin Lane and James Pierre on their rookie deals. And then, of course, you've got safety, where you've got both your starting safeties still on their rookie deals with Terrell Edmonds and Minkah Fitzpatrick. And then you've got rookie Antoine Brooks Jr. And that's all. Jordan Dangerfield is a free agent. Sean Davis is a free agent. That's your defense right now. So I didn't say it on the defensive line about Tyson Alawella being a free agent. So I just listed who the Steelers had. So that's who they have. And that's the guys they could lose. Do you think they're going – I mean, they're going to lose some of those guys. They are, just the way it's going to go. Who do they get? Who do they keep? Before we get into who they're going to do new deals with, who do you think they're going to be able to keep?
Oh, so you still got me wishing and hoping or thinking that we can work the money out and keep both Sutton and Hilton.
Yeah, because we talked about that.
We talked about that in the show, and I'm so hoping that could be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if it'll be the case, but still, I'm very much hoping that could be the case.
Yeah.
I expect to see Jordan Dangerfield come back. I expect them to re-sign him because he was your special teams captain last year, and they will see what they can do to get him back under contract.
Mm-hmm. The one I really want that I haven't heard much about is Tyson Alawella.
Yep.
It would be nice to keep him because I don't think it's going to be too expensive. I'm to a point right now with the money, I don't think they can keep both the corners, both free agent corners. I just don't know that.
I know. I doubt it.
I want to.
I'd still love to see them pull it off.
Yes.
Honestly, love to see him pull it off in the way you described. Like we had figured out we could basically get it down to a net zero.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do something like that.
Extend the two starters, use the money saved in 2020 to sign the two free agents. Mike Hilton is such a luxury, in my opinion, because he's not the typical slot corner. He brings something that's so different. And we talked about it. I am scared for him. He deserves to be paid. He does. He really, really does. But I'm also scared for him that if the best money is going to be coming from somewhere that's not going to use him in the right way. So I think Sutton will be the somewhat cheaper option. And who knows, maybe they can't hold on to either one of them, which means they're going to have to explore another option that we'll talk about here after a bit. So you never know. So if you look at it, you've got two defensive linemen. You've got, I'm going to say 1.5 outside linebacker, but because Highsmith started about half the season, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Then you've got your options right now at inside linebacker that you've got three guys that started a lot of, Devin Bush would have started every game his second year if he hadn't been injured. And then Spillane started every game that he was available after Bush was injured. And then you had Vince Williams there too. So you have your options there, which we'll talk about if you want to keep all those options. And then you have your two starting corners under contract as of right now, and you have no slot corner unless you feel that Justin Lane or James Pierre is made to, capable of playing that slot. And then safeties, you've got your starters. You just need to work around your depth. Yep. So I just saw someone had asked about Spillane he has not. I mean, I hope he hasn't signed his exclusive rights tender, because if not, I got a story waiting to publish that hasn't gone, because you know that one's coming.
Yeah.
So those are the options about the Steelers keeping their own. Do you think any of those players that they have right now under contract are options as cap casualties?
Technically, anybody could be an option.
Oh yeah, everyone's an option. Like I got accused of flip flopping on somebody, and I'm like, I've never said that they should cut them.
No,
as a cap casualty.
They should, but
I mean, I even said, remember, they can cut T.J. Watt and save $10 billion, but who in their right mind thinks they're going to do that?
Right, they're not going to do that. If there were to be anybody, I would think it would be V. Will would be the first one that they'd probably look at.
Yes, and that would be a $4 million savings. He's got a $7 million.
That's why I don't think it'll happen.
And it's not even going to be $4 million. It would end up being less than 3.5 when you talk about roster displacement, because the next salary bumping up is going to count. So I think if they want to knock down his number at all, that's just as easy. You don't deal with roster displacement when you keep the player and just give them an extension, which some people are like, do you really want to extend Vince Williams? If you're not, if you're taking all the money he was due this year and giving it to him as a signing bonus other than the league minimum, and then next year you're giving him not a huge base salary, that then you could then get out from under that as well, that would just help. So they just have to decide. I mean, Michael Beck's been saying it, and I've been right there with them. The Steelers could deal with the salary cap situation without cutting anyone.
Yep, they could.
They can. So, and Michael's in the live chat, so he's going to back me up with this. I know he will. So that's just how that's how it's going to be. So I really want to see I think they've got to do an extension with at least one of those corners, even if you just have one of them play out on their deal. Someone said how I flip-flopped where I said that they should cut Joe Hayden. I never said they should cut Joe Hayden. I think they could. Some people think that they could, but I don't think they will, and I don't think they should.
Nope.
And I still wouldn't mind them extending Hayden another year or two. People's like, oh, well, he's 32. Is there anything about his play last year that makes you think that his age is really a problem?
Right.
I mean, I don't know if anyone listened to the Touchdown Under podcast where I was on there. Myself and Jeffrey Benedict were on with Matty P. Jeffrey really broke down some of the stuff with Joe Hayden in there, and it really does make sense. I think they're going to keep them both, that they're going to extend at least one, if not both of them.
I think that's a possibility too. I really do. So, and it was sad to have, I can only imagine, our sister being so upset on Saturday when, she probably turned on to see the blokes from down under and had to look at your.
Had to look at me. Had to look at me instead of you. You didn't get Marky D on that one, so instead you got Jeffrey and I. But I'll tell you what, that was a lot of fun doing that show. If you didn't check that one out, make sure you go back and do that. We had some good fun stuff there. So we're looking at right now. If you're saying let's not cut anybody, let's not have a cap casualty on the defense, and let's say they don't re-sign anyone. Okay. How concerned, let's break it down. Where does you're talking about needing more? See, because if you don't re-sign Alawella and Chris Wormley's also a free agent, you still have
The two chuckleheads that couldn't get along together on the sideline.
Mondo, and then the two guys that wanted to throw down on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to go? Sorry. If you didn't hear Touching It Down Under, you don't know what I'm talking about. Well, you probably know what I'm talking about, but that was one of his slinging the slangs. So the Steelers could still actually get by without necessarily adding someone. They just would have to believe in Isaiah Buggs or Carlos Davis to fill in there.
Yep.
I would like to see Alawella back, and then we'll see. Outside linebacker. Alex Highsmith, next man up, ready to roll.
Oh, he's ready.
Yeah.
He showed that last year.
Yeah.
He is ready to step into that spot.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt in my mind.
Yeah. So
the question is going to be, where do we go for depth?
Yeah. And that's the thing, because to say that the loss of Bud Dupree isn't going to be a loss. We saw that it was even a loss last season. It wasn't, Highsmith and his ability helped to cover that loss, but it was still a loss. And the thing is, I'm not even, there's some people I still can't believe PFF has a much higher grade on Alex Highsmith than Bud Dupree. They say that Alex Highsmith was a better player in 2020 than Bud Dupree. I'm not going that far to say that.
No.
It's funny because Jeffrey Benedict would love to get in an argument with anyone who would say that. But the one thing that I'll say that Jeffrey's like, yeah, we'll have to dive into that more, is that Alex Highsmith was better as a rookie than Bud Dupree was as a rookie, in my opinion. So I think there's more to build on.
Yeah, I would agree with that one too. I oftentimes go in to seasons expecting more than I should from rookies. I remember feeling like I got less out of Bud Dupree than what I was expecting. I was high on Alex Highsmith. You like how I did that? And he actually, I feel he played, he got thrust into playing major minutes, and I thought he handled that well and was solid in doing that.
And there was times he made some great plays, and there was some times you could tell he was a rookie.
Yes.
So, and that's what they have, but that's all they have at that position, because Cassius Marsh gone, Javon Elliott free agent, Ola Denier restricted free agent that I don't see the Steelers giving a tender, because it would just cost way too much for a player like that. So he'll probably transfer into an unrestricted free agent. So it doesn't mean that they can't re-sign them, but that they aren't on the team right now. So that's the thing. And I talked about cost above replacement when it comes to Alex Highsmith, is that if you're talking about him costing a little over $1 million versus Bud Dupree, if he's going to go somewhere and get, I don't know, $15 to $17 million, that's the cost of that. The Steelers having to take on that much salary when they have an Alex Highsmith who, like we say, is not at a Bud Dupree level yet. It's just one of those things that you're going to have to do and going to have to roll with, and it looks like that's going to happen. The other big question then, if you got your guys at inside linebacker, you got your starting corners, you've got your safeties, is that slot corner position.
Yep.
And that's why trying to retain either Sutton or Hilton, if you can't get both of them, is going to be such a big deal.
I expect one of them to be re-signed. I really doubt both of them go. Mm-hmm. I think there is a better chance that they're both re-signed than they both go.
Yeah. Andrew brought up something really good about Alawella that I've said before. And he was answering someone else. He says he thinks Alawella has found a niche in this system. Won't cost a ton. Yep. Since he's 34. I agree. And that's the thing. People are like, oh, the Steelers and free agents over 30. That's outside free agents. When you're talking about guys that have been with the team, like Joe Hayden, like Tyson Alawella, that's not the issue, because they're familiar with them and they know what they can still do. And the Steelers system makes something about the Steelers system makes defensive linemen look amazing. I mean, especially like in the eyes of PFF, if you look at their grades, because Alawella was up there. He was graded higher than Stephon Tuitt. Cam Hayward was in the top 5. Alawella was number 1 for a large portion of the season, even ahead of Aaron Donald. Then he got bumped to 2 because of Donald, and then he had the injury where he missed some time. Right. And that just kind of changed everything with that. And I don't know that he was the same after he was injured anyway. But look at someone like a Javon Hargrave, who had very similar statistics as what he had in Pittsburgh, but his PFF grade was way, way down. And it's just because the Steelers system really allows certain players like that to thrive. And I think Alawella knows that. We're going to go ahead and take our break here. And when we come back, we've got a super chat we're going to get to. Then we're going to look at, could the Steelers go outside free agent or use the NFL draft for any of these positions? So if you're listening on the audio side, go ahead and click over to part 2. If you're here with us on YouTube or Facebook, hold on for a little bit and we'll be right back in just a few seconds. And we're back, Pittsburgh Steeler fans, with part 2 of the Scho Bro Show. I am Dave Schofield, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. With me still, Big Brother Rich. How you doing, bro?
Actually with you. I hope all my technical issues are now solved.
We'll blame Kyle. Kyle screwed up your computer. He already deleted your email.
I already deleted my email. Laptop. That's right.
So, yeah, don't pay Kyle. So we're going to start off this half before we get back into this. The Steelers trying to keep their defense at the elite level. You do that a lot by trying to keep it intact or by having good options at different places. Let's go ahead and jump into the super chat, which I did not look over before I brought it up. $4.99 from Evgeny Crosby, which depends. We're victorious tonight, 4-2 against the Rangers. That was nice. $4.99 to the tip jar. He says, find the money for Dupree. If you don't bring back the best team, there was no point in having Ben back at all. But you can't bring back everyone.
Disagree.
See, and that's, go ahead.
It goes back to everything we did as this pandemic started last year, and everybody talks stuff. Our favorite phrase was, "With what money?"
With what money?
We don't have the money to sign Dupree to a great big contract with a cap hit of probably 12 plus million this year and be able to do anything else with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Dave, with the cost above replacement.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I think, is that if you have a decent replacement on a bargain salary, why spend all that money?
I'm not gonna bring the whole comment up because it was kind of long, but over on Facebook, Chris Goodwin was talking a similar deal about losing Dupree and that TJ would drop off. I think it was it Jeffrey that had the article showing how it was actually Tuitt and TJ that actually, could really worked well together. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of TJ's success could be actually given to Stephon Tuitt, not necessarily.
And vice versa.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily all, it wasn't just TJ Watt and Bud Dupree. You got those other guys on the inside have an impact on all that. Mm-hmm. So, do I wish the Steelers? Yes, I wish the Steelers could keep Bud Dupree. Of course.
Yeah.
I just don't see financially how they would ever be able to pull it off.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what happens. And that's what's going to come around eventually when everyone talks about all the Steelers and all these number 1 picks on defense, not all of which were made by the Steelers. But you look at, you've got Fitzpatrick, Edmonds, Hayden, Bush, Watt, last year Dupree, Hayward, Alawella, all these guys were first-round picks. Then you've got Tuitt that was a second. Then you've got Nelson, who was a third, I'm pretty sure. That's when you have guys that are playing, that are that pedigree, they're all going to need their money whenever it all comes around. And you're going to have to make tough decisions. But that And honestly, I said it at the time. That's why the drafting Alex Highsmith in the 3rd round last year was a great call, because you had a year with Dupree, with Highsmith, to have an idea, to see what you had with him, to see if they needed to overpay for Dupree, or if they didn't have to, if they still couldn't keep Dupree, then how high they would have to address outside linebacker this year. What Highsmith has done as a 3rd round pick last year, even if Bud Dupree is gone in free agency by this time next week,
the Steelers
don't have to draft an outside linebacker high. What they're looking for is depth. It's not like, oh my goodness, what are they going to do? Now, I'm not putting it past them that they wouldn't do it. I'm not putting it past them. They wouldn't.
No, I mean, if the right person, again, you're in the 1st round. If somebody falls and you're just like, oh my gosh, how is this guy still there? You take him.
Yeah.
And you figure it out. But you don't have to reach. The Steelers, don't have to feel the pressure that they would have to reach for an edge rusher in the 1st round.
Yeah. Exactly. And when you mentioned with what money, and what that really comes back to is, it's not like the Steelers can't, you can't be a Steelers fan and complain about the Steelers kicking the can down the road by pushing off dead money into future years, and at the same breath say, well, they always find a way to find the money. You can't complain about them finding a way to find the money and then expect them to find a way to find the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and I understand kicking the can down the road, with the whole Ben Roethlisberger thing. My goodness, they cut how much they were kicking down the road in less than half, which is fantastic. So ultimately, you've got to get to a point where you could make it work. But is it really, really worth it? Because you're going to be that strapped. And the Steelers are going to have to pay TJ Watt. And it was someone asked in the in the live chat long ago. I couldn't stay with it because it was lost. But could the Steelers do the extension with TJ Watt this offseason? Absolutely.
They could.
Do they have to?
They do not.
If they do, are you hoping that it would lower his $10 million cap hit that he's having this year on his 5th-year option? That would be the reason for doing it now. Some people would say, well, the other reason to do it now is so you don't lose him. You know what? They're not losing TJ Watt, because TJ Watt, he's worth the franchise tag 1 year and 2 years. You know what I'm saying? He's worth that. So if he doesn't get the extension this year, the big deal, then you're probably looking at a franchise tag and trying to do the extension next year. Either one works. I'm okay. However, the Steelers decide is the best way for them to do it. I kind of trust them there, but they have both options in my opinion. So there we go. The other options we needed to get to with this defense was, do you think you're going to see any outside free agents from the Steelers on the defensive side of the ball? Last year, the Steelers signed 3 significant players. Only 2 of them they signed enough that even counted towards the compensatory formula. The one that didn't count was Stefan Wisniewski, who didn't stick the whole season. The other 2 were both on offense, because it was Eric Ebron and Derek Watt. Mm-hmm. So they did not go free agency on defense last year. Unless you want to say technically they traded for Chris Wormley. That was the biggest thing that they did. Yep. You see the Steelers going free agency outside of their own guys this year?
If they do, it won't be big.
Yeah.
It won't be big because they don't need big.
Yeah.
We need, what they're looking for are depth pieces. They're not looking for somebody. I'll just pick. Yeah. Then I see Desmond Trufant was cut earlier this week as a cap casualty.
Someone like that. That name does sound familiar.
I think
there's so many names that thrown out. Possibly, I can't remember.
I know, but I'm pretty sure it was Trufant. Okay, it was a corner. Okay, well, Trufant's to start. He's probably starting corner. We're gonna pay a free agent starting corner money when we basically already have our 2 starting corners.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing that you would do then is if you needed a slot corner, and the thing is,
correct.
Who might be your least expensive option out there that you feel could do the job at slot corner?
It might be Cam Sutton.
It might be Cam Sutton. So that's just that. I mean, that's just kind of what is going to be going down. To me, once again, if the Steelers makes a signing or two from outside as a free agent, my money's on it being on the offensive side of the ball. I would see it. I could see them signing an outside offensive lineman. I could see the possibility of them signing an outside running back if they're not going to address it in the draft. They're got to do it one or two ways, most likely. And then the other one's the possibility of a tight end, depending on what's out there. I know a lot of people are still waiting to see if the outlaw gets released from Detroit since he caught that ball.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. So here we go. We got another super chat. $5.
Yep.
John Knox into the tip jar. Thank you, John. Says we can't keep Bud or Juju, nor should we. Highsmith will be amazing, and Washington or a mid-rounder can replace Juju. First-round center, second-round running back. I don't know about the first-round center because I don't know that any center is really worthy of a first-round pick. If the Steelers are going to go with the center with their first pick, I would rather them trade back. Because now a lot of things could change between now and the draft. Where I have them graded right now, I would feel would be a reach if they're taking a center in the first round.
I would be more likely to see
they think the kid out of Northwestern could play center, who's really a tackle. But I don't even know that he's going to be there when the Steelers pick. So
right. I would be more likely with the 2 things we had up there to see those flip flop.
Yeah,
I think I'd be more likely to see a running back in the first and the center maybe in the second.
But I'm also the kind of guy that doesn't think that they need to go running back in the first, unless
they don't.
But here's the thing: you can't go running back and center in the second. You can't do it. You only have one second round pick unless you're trading back. So that's just one of those things. But yeah, I've been of the you see me wearing the Juju hat. You know why I'm wearing the Juju hat? Because a week from now, it might not be good anymore.
That's right.
I got to wear what I can. Got to get my money's worth out of it.
That's why my hat is just steel.
Yeah. So I've had this one for a while, so it's been fun.
And I can always wear the Pouncey jersey because he played for and retired a Steeler. So see, there you go.
Exactly. So now, in case you are wondering, yes, we understand what the Steelers need and all the stuff they have on offense. We're sticking with defense tonight. The offense has been the discussion a lot, and with everything with Bud Dupree, this is why we stayed there. Last part of the thing, we talked about who they have, who they could keep from their team that are free agents. Would they look outside for an outside free agent? Like I said, the only way I see that is maybe corner if they don't sign either of the 2 guys. Or if they did make a salary cap casualty, but I don't believe they'll do that, but it doesn't mean that they can't. Draft. What defensively do you see the Steelers possibly addressing in the draft, and at what point of the draft?
Well, see, you like to ask you these questions, and for these, I can go off with all kinds of fun and wild ideas.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me just throw Brian Anthony Davis style. Oh, I'm just going to throw stuff to the wall and see what sticks. So could the Steelers suddenly be shocked by a corner who is sitting out there late in the first round and take a corner?
Absolutely. There's some of them that are available.
Especially if
JC Horn, Surtain. These are probably guys that aren't going to be there, but if they are, you got to think about it.
Correct.
Because that's the problem with the Steelers drafting first-round corners, that Jeffrey Benedict, I think is it Jeffrey? No, it might be Jeff Hartman that brings it up, that where the Steelers are drafting, you're never going to get that elite corner. when you need it. So you end up getting the not as elite corner. Okay.
So don't take them there.
So
But
don't
if
take
one
them.
of those elite guys falls
In a year that you don't know that you need one, you might really want to do it.
well, sure. Because could you see this? Could you see this? You draft that elite corner. That guy's got to get into the starting lineup. Okay. Guess who your slot corner now?
Joe Hayden.
Joe Hayden.
Because Joe Hayden can do. Well, I mean, and the thing is,
Joe Hayden can.
But he would
versatile.
be used so differently than Mike Hilton. People don't understand. I mean, that's what I would. That maybe I should be calling him out now, Jeffrey. That's what I want to see from you. If this looks like it could be a possibility, what would Joe Hayden as the slot corner bring to the Steelers that we wouldn't be able to expect? That sounds like that has Jeffrey written all over it. But
sure.
I mean,
he's
and
probably got film on it already.
Yeah, I mean, if you had someone else that could also play the outside where you had that, to me, that could be an upgrade of the secondary.
Yeah,
perhaps.
It very much could be.
That's a big if. That's a big if. You would have to get the right person in there.
You know, you're saying what do we address through the draft? Man, I'm still in the club of, if you can look at all these mock drafts and everything like this, and we can get an idea of the kind of guy that's going to be out there. But I'm always of the mindset that if you're sitting there and somebody slides, and you can't believe this person's there, and oh my gosh, what could this guy bring for our team? Then you go get that guy.
And you well.
And everybody says,
are they going to be in person this year? Are they going to go to the podium, or do you got to go to Goodell's basement? I don't know yet. We'll see.
And you want to make it so that, at first everybody's questioning, oh my gosh, what are they doing here? They didn't go for need. They did. That's a luxury here, blah, 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 blah. And guess what? It usually works out because you got a very good player.
Yeah. I still love to tell the story. I've been doing it a lot lately. Juju Smith-Schuster. Why did the Steelers taking a wide receiver in the second? They need a corner. Well, guess what? They took Cam Sutton in the third, and I still say he's been their best drafted corner that they've had in a long time.
Yeah,
a long time. So, and it wouldn't have made sense to take Sutton there. They got Sutton where they needed to get Sutton. So it all worked out. I would, if they took an edge in the first round, I'd kind of be surprised.
A little bit.
Corner, it would only be if it was the right guy there. I don't know of any safety that would jump out, especially with what the Steelers have at safety with their two young guys. This year, safety might be there at another time. I don't see a defensive lineman going high. That would probably be an early day 3 pick if they need a defensive lineman, if you know what I mean. Where the Steelers are projected to have a couple 4th round picks because they should be getting a comp pick in the 4th round. I ran the mock draft Monday obviously I ran it on Monday of the Steelers taking the inside linebacker from Tulsa, Collins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If the Steelers felt like having that double whammy, young, athletic, this is what we do inside linebacker pair, and they think that's what's going to make this defense next level, I'm not going to scream about not taking the lineman or anything else.
Yeah, that was the other position where I thought they maybe would go. That everybody's saying, center and running back and all these obvious ones, and it actually wouldn't surprise me if the right guy's there to see it be a corner or an inside linebacker.
Those are the two main ones on defense that would not shock me based on what I see in this year's draft and basically what's going on with the Steelers.
Right. Am I expecting it? Those positions? No, but they won't shock me that if the right guy's there, that they would do one of those too.
Yeah. How many times did the Steelers draft because they really didn't expect him to be there? I mean, go back to Rod Woodson. Where Tony Dungy says, don't even bother scouting him. He's not going to be there when we pick. And then there he was. What about Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger?
Correct.
Did you really expect him to be there at 11?
He was not supposed to be.
David DeCastro was not expected to still be there at 24.
Yep.
believe it or not, Bud Dupree was projected top 10 because of how he was at the combine. He was one of those athletic freaks of the combine that now recently we're seeing why he was such a combine guy, because he is an athletic freak. But because he was a little bit raw, it took him time to develop, which it kind of hindsight now tells you exactly why things happened with Dupree the way they did. So if you're going to have that player that you just didn't expect to be there, like I thought when Dupree was drafted, I thought the Steelers were going to be taking a corner in that draft. But whenever it got to their pick at 22, I remember sitting on my couch with my wife having no idea what I was talking about. I'm like, they've got it. I'm like, Bud Dupree's still available. They're going to have to take that guy.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
And then I met him 2 days later at the Fan Fest. So that was my first Fan Fest. So that's where I think now, do I think they add other positions later? Absolutely. I think they're going to add another outside linebacker. Probably, yes. I'd be surprised if it was day 2. The only way I see that happen is if they pull a Matty P and trade back once or twice and gain 15 picks. Sorry, Matty. Or gain have more than 3 picks in the first 2 days. If not, I see that maybe as something that could be a Saturday pick or something like that. But so inside linebacker is that position that I could see them going big or not going at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Go big or not else. Last year I thought that was running back, and then they shocked me and took one in the 4th, which kind of perplexed me with that one. So
I know that one perplexed that one perplexed a lot of folks last year. Okay.
So final question about this before we get to our big question, because I have the big question this week.
Okay.
I had one I really want to do. But final question to you, which isn't the big question. Do you think they still have the chance to keep this defense elite?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Even if they don't keep any of even if they don't retain any of their free agents.
Yes, you've got enough of the core of what was an elite defense that they would be okay and could still very much be an elite defense. It would not take a whole lot to fill it around, but that's because you've got a lot of pieces still there. Yes. Are there key pieces missing? Yes. Again, the only other reason I feel I can say that is because we got a half a year of starting out of Alex Highsmith. I'm not thinking of Alex Highsmith as much as a replacement as I would have if Bud Dupree plays the whole year.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. So
and that time that he gained, makes me think, okay, so you've got 2 of your interior linemen, you still got Hayward and Tuitt. You'll have Watt and Highsmith. You'll have Bush and Vince Williams as of right now. How could you not be happy with that? You got Hayden and Nelson. Mm-hmm. You got Minka and Edmonds. Well, gee whiz, what's missing?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Yeah. To me, if the Steelers could sign 2 of their quote unquote starting level free agents, they're great. Like if you could do like Alawella and Sutton.
Yes.
It wouldn't have to be those 2. I mean, if they found a way to sign, the Steelers still said they would like to keep Bud Dupree. They've been saying that for a very long time, and I understand why. They understand that he's a good player. It just is going to get to a point where they just can't do the money.
The market's going to dictate that, and they're not sure that the market's going to play anywhere close to their favor.
And here's the problem. This is a good question. This isn't going to be the final question, but I'm just going to ask you this one so people can discuss this in the live chat until we get our final question up here in just a minute. Given the option, you signing Bud Dupree, it's either or. You can't do all this. Bud Dupree or Alawella and Sutton, where if you sign Dupree, you're out of being able to bring back like an Alawella and a Cameron Sutton or Mike Hilton or something like that.
I probably still do it.
What, sign Dupree?
Yep.
See, I'd go the other way. I'd because of the cost above replacement thing.
Can totally understand the argument the other way as well.
Yeah,
I do. It's not that
it's close. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's what makes it a good question.
Yeah.
You could get by with the loss of Alawella, but losing him and Sutton is what would make it hard.
And here's what's crazy. I am looking at the live chat. This isn't our big question we're going to bring up. It is split. It is split. I'm not saying it's split 50-50, but it's split. I mean, and the people are like, oh, absolutely. Slam dunk Sutton and Tyson. And people are like, yeah, you're going to sign Bud Dupree for sure.
Right.
You know?
I know.
That's why it's so close. That's why it's so close. Okay. But I already had my final question in mind.
I actually probably surprised you with that a little bit, didn't I?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
You probably thought I'd lean and go the other direction.
Yeah. But you always got to remember what Mule said. You've got to remember you've got Dupree coming off the ACL. And honestly, if there's a scenario where the Steelers keep Bud Dupree, I'm going to tell you what my scenario is. If you think the Steelers are going to work out a deal with Dupree between now and Monday, it's possible, but I'm going to say it's not likely. To me, I think the best way where Dupree would stay is if he hits the market's not there because of one, salary cap constraints with so many teams, and two, concern over the ACL, that he realizes he's just better off if he's not going to get the big deal to come back to the Steelers to have another season or two, with TJ, and then getting another big deal. That's the best way to do it. But I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't see him signing a 1-year deal with anybody other than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I don't know that the Steelers would want to do a 1-year deal because you can't spread out the cap hit.
I know, but what if Dupree's like, nobody believes me on this? Do y'all, can I come back there and showcase it again, hit free agency again the next year? Yeah. If I'm the Steelers, I consider it.
Yeah.
So get to the big question.
I was going to say one last prediction. You're going to see across the NFL this year very few 1-year deals because the teams are going to need to keep that cap number down that first year. That's my guess. We'll see if that plays out. Here's the big question. You're going to answer it. I'm going to answer it too. And remember, don't put it in there until you see that I put it up in the live chat, or else I'm not going to bring it up. The Steelers, with their first round pick in the 2000, or maybe it's not first round, maybe they trade back. I don't care. With their first pick in the 2021 NFL draft a blank position. Now, I'm not counting special teams, punter, kicker, long snapper. What position would anger you the most with the Steelers taking them in the first round?
Oh, would anger me the most?
Yeah.
All right. Good choice. All right.
Remember, don't put your answer out there in the live chat until I bring it up. You're going to answer quick. I'm going to answer quick, and then we're going to bring it up.
I got mine.
I got mine. I've had mine. So you go ahead and do yours.
You go ahead. You always make me go first. You go first.
Mine? Wide receiver.
Yeah, that was mine.
Yeah, wide receiver. No, they're going to draft one.
Correct.
Because I think they need one for depth, but I don't think they need another top draft pick as a wide receiver.
I totally agree.
Okay.
Wide receiver.
I just put it up there. So remember, if you already put it up there, I'm not going to bring it up until mine was up there. Okay. Let's see. What do we got? Chris Goodwin, wide receiver. Eric says quarterback. Cree says linebacker. Mark says receiver. Michael Beck. We got to give him a good deputy name. With me being when I was Deputy Dave. Deputy Editor Michael Beck says wide receiver. Wow, these are.
I just like to call him "What the heck, Michael Beck."
What the heck, Michael Beck? That's a good one. Okay, Steeler Chick says cornerback. She would not be happy with the cornerback. Andrew Wilbar, he's going there. He's saying running back. or safety. Okay, I think safety is another good one too. If I had to go defense, that would probably what I said. Defense.
That was where I was going to go on defense. It was going to be safety.
Yeah. Okay. Double H said if they draft a defensive end or strong safety. Donald says quarterback, don't take it the first round. Remember, you know what? I should say if you're put up more than one position, I'm not going to do it. Okay. Jeffrey does not want a corner. He doesn't want that scenario we talked about where they don't bring both guys back and move Hayden to the slot. He just doesn't want to write that article I suggested.
That's what it is. He don't want to write that article
now. Eric says safety. Reginald says wide receiver. Mule, I'm not bringing that up. I said those didn't count. Okay. Sherry says wide receiver. Hold on. Where are we at? Steeler fan 74 says wide receiver. And Thaddeus says corner. Thaddeus says corner. Okay. I'll go ahead and do one because they already typed it in that they had two. Lumberzack said wide receiver or defensive tackle. Okay. Stacy says wide receiver.
Yep.
Okay. Looking for more. Russ says running back. I am not a big fan of first round running backs. I've said just because of their longevity in the league. That's why the entire league has devalued the position. But I'm starting to see that for some of the elite ones, they are coming back to first round status. So I don't want to see them take a running back just for the sake of taking one because they need to improve the running game. I only want it if they really have a game changer.
If they got a guy that you can't pass on.
Yep. Mule says running back. CD says corner. Okay. Sherry says on defense, she would say safety. Okay. So these are I just thought that was an interesting question of not about what they would take. What do you really want them not to take? You know, I'd be fine with anything on the offensive line. Not guard as much as long as DeCastro is still around, but I could see going guard because of not knowing how much longer they have David DeCastro. I could see that just as easily. But I would have that third on the list, in my opinion. I could see nobody put tight end.
No.
I was kind of surprised at that. I thought we might see thought we might see tight end. King said inside linebacker. I'm telling you, inside linebacker, that's one of those positions, just like I said last year's running back. Go big or go home. Go get the best one to make it absolutely amazing, or don't bother. So that was a fun little exercise. So I think the Steelers defense is still right there. It's very interesting because we covered just corners a couple weeks ago. And then I wrote an article about what we had talked about keeping all four corners for the same cap hit that they currently have with just the two right now. And the problem was, I got a comment there that someone said, did you not see how the season ended last year? We need to blow up everything. Why would you blow up this defense? That makes no sense.
No idea.
That makes no sense. You want to retain as much of this defense as possible and build upon it. Okay. Now people are saying tight end because just going to see it. And that's just, I don't know that that the right tight end would be there at 24. I don't know. I wouldn't be super excited about a pick at tight end, but I mean, if the Steelers went, I saw a mock draft that had the Steelers taking a wide receiver, and I'm just like, with the ones they already have, it's interesting. It's interesting.
And how well the Steelers do getting wide receivers later
in 2 or 3 or 4. Yep. So I see them picking up a depth piece there this year in the draft, but all that could change. They might not be picking up a depth piece at wide receiver if they pick up a veteran in free agency.
What could potentially that's right. Yeah.
So here, before we go, right before we sign off, here's my quick prediction. I see Michael Beck says he'd rather have a vet wide receiver. I agree with that. I'd like to get that veteran presence in the locker room as well. Golden Tate comes to mind for me, but that's just me.
Come on, I know. Let's go.
What was I going to say? Come on, you were reading my mind. What was I going to say? No,
I know what I was going to say. Oh.
What I was going to say, I know what you're waiting to say, but you're going to have to wait for it.
So Brian Anthony Davis knows.
At this point, next week, I expect news of Steelers free agents lost, maybe news of Steelers free agents of their own signed. I mean, I could, especially like a Zach Banner or something like that. But at this point next week, when it hasn't even hit the actual beginning of the league year, I'm not looking for the Steelers to have locked down any outside free agent. That's my prediction. Do you think the Steelers would have an outside free agent locked in before Wednesday?
If they do, it's only because you've predicted that they won't.
Only to make me wrong. Well, that sounds like it. But hey, make sure there's going to be a lot of news coming. There's going to be a lot of stuff. And of course, we're here every day on YouTube. We've got the evening shows, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't know if Brian and Tony said anything. I know they had moved their show to later from where it used to be earlier. They were thinking about moving it back because of some changes with both of those guys. So I'm still not sure when the hangover's going. Because I haven't caught the replay of that yet. But tomorrow night with Michael and Jeffrey, they're previewing another college that has some multiple prospects. I don't want to steal their thunder and say who it is if I'm not supposed to, but I know they already have someone set up. Then you've got the preview Thursday. Tony back to his regular show on Friday because last week I was on with him as we interviewed former Steeler Robert Golden. Touchdown Under, you should be back with both Aussies. You don't have to look at me anymore on that one. Don't forget your Tales from 2 a.m. on Mondays. And of course, not on Monday, on Sunday mornings. Don't forget your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Let's Ride. You've got your live mic on Tuesday. You've got Stat Geek and War Room on Thursdays. All these things. Make sure you're checking it out. Make sure you're going to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And make sure you are back here next Tuesday night at 9 o'clock with Rich and I. What do you think about that, Rich?
Can't wait.